What's up, hardheads? Welcome back to the Hardcover Hooligans podcast. My name is Mac. As always, I'm here with Danylo. And Danylo, I have a question for you.
Ask away.
Which part of this did you like better? Part 3 or part 4?
Of the whole book?
Yeah.
I like them both for different reasons. I know that's a cop-out answer.
I don't know what it is. I like this part way more. I don't know why.
The second half?
Yeah, I just love these three weird freaks.
I think I know why now.
Yeah. Okay, so today we're reading book 4, right? Yeah.
Book 4 of book 2.
Right. The second half, all the Frodo and Sam stuff of the Two Towers is what we read today.
I think, and at no point has it been clear what part we're reading,
No.
because we always have to explain it 7 times. There's 3 books, but it's 1 book, but there's parts called books, and we're reading book 4 of book 2.
And this is a book podcast where we read and talk about books. But yeah, this is The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. We're going to skip all that intro stuff that we did last time, and I think we'll hop right into it.
I know. If you need any intro to this, listen to last episode, you fucking idiot.
You fucking stupid moron.
Please, no, you're not a moron. Please leave us a review.
No, I don't care. I don't care about reviews. I care about Orthanc and I care about Barad-dûr. Those are the only 2 things I care about.
I think that makes you a bad guy.
No. What if I care about Minas Morgul and Minas Tirith, because those could also be the 2 towers? I bet
they're not.
Whoa, there's
they're
like 4
so
towers.
Not.
Okay. So Danylo, what did you think of this section? You said before we started recording that you thought you were not going to be excited to talk about this. What did that mean?
I started it, and I'm like, it's going to be Sam and Smeagol and Frodo the whole time. Because as a child, these were always my least favorite part of the movies.
Really?
I don't know. I just didn't like it. I think I think part of it was the like, it's not the fun part. It's just
That's
like
true.
3
and
guys
Gandalf's not in it.
walking
That's a big
around.
part.
And I think part of it was just like Gollum's gross and Sam is like mentally rotting. No, Frodo is like mentally rotting, and Sam is like holding up. Like, none of them like each other at this point, So it's just kind of hard to watch.
I'll say something though, and there's more of it in Return of the King, but I'll tell you, that movie really does Frodo's mental state dirty. He is not that fucked up. Like, he is way sturdier of a person.
Yeah.
It like doesn't turn him mean. It just like makes him depressingly like tired. It doesn't, because like at this point in the movie, Frodo has told Sam to like fuck off, and like they're not going to talk to each other anymore. That doesn't happen at all in the book. And in fact, I think like, if anything, I can understand why if you're adapting it, it might be boring on the screen to just like, they just get along the whole time. Like, there's no tension. The tension is like, oh, where are they going? So you need more than that. It works in a book, but
we'll talk about this later probably, but I think the interpersonal stuff, like how that intersects with like thematic things, I think works a lot better as a book. And I also think like the sense of like the evil of Mordor is a lot better in the, it's like, because it's like vague, but it's also not. And in the book, like just like the atmosphere of that, I felt a lot more, it felt more specific, and I felt a lot more keenly, I guess. But in the movie, it's just evil area, And
this book actually does, in some crazy turn of events, tries to humanize the brown bad people more than the movie does, which is crazy. Like, the movie has that scene in it, but it doesn't have Sam's inner monologue. It just has like Sean Astin's face like, huh? And we'll talk about that, of course, but I suppose we will start at the beginning. So to wrap you up, and tell you a nice little story. What happened last time was basically Gandalf's back, Sauron is temporarily defeated, and the great eye of evil knows or thinks that it knows where the ring is.
Yeah.
We start 3 days after the blowing of the horn of Gondor, and Sam and Frodo have taken a boat across the river and are resuming the originally intended path of the company through, like, it is described. It's called the Emen Muil, and it's like the sharpest rocks of all time are all here, and it sucks, and it's impossible to navigate through. And they know right away that Gollum is on their tail.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's good. And they sort of like vaguely know where they're going. They keep talking about how, like, hey, you know that dark place that feels oppressively evil? Normally, we wouldn't go towards it, but now that's where we have to go, and they find that funny and amusing.
It seems like in the book, more so than the movie, definitely, that Mordor is at this point always in sight. Like they can literally see the mountains like constantly and are getting closer to them and keep remarking on them.
I always thought it was funny how the only thing I ever remember about the geography of Middle-earth is how there's a perfect rectangle of mountains surrounding the evil place. Is there like a lore reason for that? Or is it like...
Well, he's like, Mordor is I don't know about the mountains. That's a good question. But there is a reason that Mordor is the evil place, like, and sequestered and smaller than the rest of the world. And we'll talk about that in the Silmarillion.
Hidden behind this very convenient mountain formation. Yeah.
But the gate and all that stuff is all creations of Sauron.
Sure.
Evil guys doing evil shit.
Oh, totally.
How cool do you think this is for like a reader who read The Hobbit to be like, oh my god, Gollum is going to be in this story? Like I can't imagine that feeling. Oh, and listener, this time round, I listened to most of this, Andy Serkis reading it, and hearing Andy Serkis get to do all of this extra Gollum stuff is fucking incredible. I would, in case you didn't highly suggest.
That's also the actor who plays Gollum in the movies. I don't know why you'd be listening to that podcast and not know this, but
you might know him as Caesar from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. You might be saying, why do I care about that? Well,
that's Gen Z. That's what we get to Gen Z. Remember that kids movie you watched, you kids, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? He was that guy. He was the monkey.
Yeah, he's a monkey, and he talks more in this than he did as a monkey. So they get to the they go through the Dead Marshes, which is they meet Gollum, and they're like, oh shit, are you like good or bad? And Frodo's like, you need to swear. You can't swear on your life because you don't give a shit about that. So you have to swear on something you care about, that you're not gonna like kill us in our sleep, and you got to swear on the ring. And Gollum's like, what are you going to do with the ring? And Frodo's like, none of your fucking business what we're going to do with the ring. And
we just need to bring it back to there.
Yeah, we're going to give it to
okay.
Yeah, so long as it's not... Because they know if they say that they're going to go blow up the mountain with the ring and everything, Gollum's probably going to lose his shit and try to kill them both.
Doesn't Gollum also think that like they're gonna bring it back to Sauron? Like he keeps talking about like, oh, I have to stop these hobbits from bringing it back to Sauron.
Well, he means like he doesn't want them to like die by orcs and then Sauron gets it. But he doesn't know. He's a fucking idiot. But he's also really smart, and he knows a big sexy spider. So they go to the Dead Marshes, which is a really cool part, and it reminds me, there's a couple points in here that remind me of the Barrow Downs, which feel like forever ago in the first book. The ghosts make their return again, but this time they're not like malicious, and they're maybe not even really there, but it looks like they're like dead people holding candles, like and Frodo sees like dead people in the water, but when he reaches down, they're not actually there.
Yeah, because wasn't it the site of a battle?
Yeah, it is.
Like the first time everyone fought Sauron.
It's not the site of the big battle that Isildur was at, but it is the site of one of the battles. Yeah, I think you're right. The first time.
This is the first part time where like, oh, they're getting close to Mordor, and it's where it's like dangerous to look at stuff for too long because they're like looking at like these like green flames that are like the dead souls of people, and Gollum's like, don't look at them, they're gonna suck you in.
Oh yeah, because Frodo's just like, oh,
he's just looking at it and starts wandering away. And that comes up like it comes up later where they like are looking at Mordor stuff, and it just like eats at their souls. Like, don't look at the stuff.
They get to the Black Gate, and it is the biggest, most impenetrable gate of all time. And Frodo and Sam get there and are like, I don't really know how we thought that was going to go.
They're like, it's not open.
Yeah, the chapter is literally called "The Black Gate is Closed." So, no fucking shit.
Which is, a bar in my neighborhood. You go, like, fuck, it's closed.
The Black Gate is closed.
Damn it! No one wants to work anymore. And isn't it also called Morannon or Morannon?
Yeah. That whole mountain range, the Morannon. It's pretty cool. And something's called Gurgoroth or whatever. I don't remember what that is, but that's also something. So they get there, and Frodo and Sam are like, they hang out for a while, like they camp out, and they're like, Jesus Christ, we got to think about stuff. And they see like a bunch of another army of men. Marching.
Like, it starts opening. They're like, it's opening. Yeah. And then a bunch of scary people walk out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he also sees like people coming in, and they assume that they're people, the Haradrim, and there's some wild people there, which are the Haradrim are like, we know not in the Lord of the Rings lore, like that, this is pretty much it. What we know about them.
Just some group of people, and they fight for Sauron.
Yeah, there's like a south Middle Eastern part of Middle Earth, but none of the story really takes place there.
Sure.
And for a book written by a white man in the 50s, it is surprisingly not all the way racist. It's still a little weird, but
it's still a little like we hunted the brown people were evil and running away, and so we shot them.
But there is an interesting part in that we'll talk about later with Sam, which I find like absolutely stunning that it's in this book at all. But hey, that's the kind of guy J.R.R. Tolkien is. I guess he could have been a horrible racist. I don't know. I'm not going to stake it. Fuck J.R.R. Tolkien. So Gollum's like, oh, I just remembered. I know there's a big staircase right to Mount Doom. And he's like, what? How come you didn't tell us this before? And he's like, well, there's still bad guys up there, you fucking moron. It's not as if it's just like a big neon sign that says free pass to Mordor this way.
Yeah, it's not a freeway. It's just one that's not totally impossible to get through.
And this is also, Gollum knows, this is the beginning, we learn later, Gollum's formulating of the plan that, I'm just going to take them to where the big, scariest thing of all time is, the Shelob, the spider.
And then I won't be breaking my promise, because she's going to kill him.
Yeah. So they go, and they leave the gate, and they have to go south first, towards the pass of Cirith Ungol, and it looks nice.
But is this the part where Sam just says the Oliphant poem?
Yes.
It's in front
because
of the
he
Black
wants to see
Gate.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, it's closed, and a bunch of scary people walk out, and he's like, this reminds me of a kid's poem. And then
he asks, he's like, did you see if they had any? And he's like, what? And then he's like, there are these things from this poem I heard, and then he recites his whole funny little poem. And the Oliphant, you reading that and you go, that kind of sounds like elephant, and you'd be right, except they're way bigger.
And they're mean and scary.
Yeah. And they have big sweet houses on them, and this is not the last time we'll see them. So they travel through the fields of Ithilien, which is like still evil, but it's like nicer, kind of. It's like in
front of the Black Gate, it's like described as like, it's like the worst hellscape known. There's like gas and ooze coming out of the ground, and it's just like dead and steaming. And but then they move to Ithilien, which is like nice and beautiful.
But there's still Sam's like, I'm gonna go get some water, and he like turns a corner, and there's like a ring of skulls on fire, and he's like, okay, never mind
that water.
This is also, I just have to mention this. This is the part where Sam reveals that he's been carrying pots and pans with him to the gates of hell.
Yeah, that's right. They've just been eating their little crackers, and he's like, we need a full meal.
Yeah. He's
and
like,
this is where he says, potatoes.
I know! He really says it!
I cannot believe that was in the book.
Yeah, for those who haven't read the book before, Sam actually does, in response to Gollum, who says, what are taters? He says, taters?
He says, what's tater? No, he says, taters, eh? What's taters? And he replies, potatoes.
It's like po-ta-toes. He doesn't say boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. I think, that's a perfect addition. It should be in here. So they're walking, and they stumble upon a bunch of like guys and from the all gillied up mission in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and they're sneaking through because they're like, we're hunting other men, and they're wearing sweet green cloaks, and they're fucking awesome, and they're like, yeah, we're Rangers of Gondor, and he's like, oh shit, Rangers of Gondor.
They look like Boromir looks.
Yeah.
Or looked.
Yeah. One of them, he's like, what's up, guys? My name is Faramir. Boromir's my older brother. And they're like,
because this is not in the movie, right?
Yeah, it is.
Is it? When they meet Faramir?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it in a while.
This might just be I cannot tell what is the extended editions and what's not. This is in the extended editions, at least. This whole thing.
The whole thing where they go to the place and with really?
Yeah.
I must have thought I've been watching extended editions my whole life and have not seen a second of it.
There's extra where they go to Osgiliath in the movie. That does not happen in the book. Okay. At least in the Two Towers, they Faramir does not like let them leave the cave in the movie. He's like, you're also coming with me to Osgiliath, and then that's when like the fell beast and Sam's like, there is good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. None of that's in this book. Because Faramir's like, you can go.
Well, in this whole part, I was like, new to me. So, like, character-wise, like, I was nervous for Sam Frodo. I'm like, wait, is he going to want the ring? What if he finds out? Oh, they can't tell him, like, hey, your brother's dead. Like, how do you know this? And then the tension of not knowing, I think, was very good in this section.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, it is really good. Because, and, so here, before Faramir and, Frodo and Sam have a discussion, they are waylaid by men from the south, and it's the first time that Frodo and Sam have seen men killing each other. And there's a moment where
I didn't put that together.
A dead guy stumbles from a cliff or whatever. Like, they're, like, hiding in, like, a little outcropping, and then the guy, like, stumbles and he falls. And Sam sees that, like, he looks different, but he's probably, like, just some guy who got horribly tricked by the most evil man of all time. Because he saw, like, his friend Boromir got tricked just the same. And, like, it could happen to anybody. And he has this moment of... He is a really touching moment, and, like, this you can definitely feel, like... And Tolkien definitely saw, like, a dead German soldier and was like, holy shit.
Yeah, because he literally is like, what led him to be here? Like, what did he believe that might not have been true? Or, hey, I wonder if he had a family.
It's so sad, and it's such a good dichotomy because Faramir and the other Rangers don't care at all about that. They're like, we killed the rest of them, and they're like sort of sullen and feel awkward. And this is like another moment where where Tolkien is trying to make the hobbits. You might think that like men, like us, the humankind, are supposed to be the men of this world, but we're really supposed to be like the hobbits. Like,
the hobbits is like the ideal sort of.
Yeah. You just try to be like as nice as you can, and most of us don't really want to walk with a bunch of jewelry to the scariest place ever, and when we see people die, hopefully we have this reaction of like, oh my god, that's terrible and horrible. It is, and then
Yeah, it's like a negative symptom of the world that like the humans have become so like callous to death and everything.
Yeah. And Faramir mentions that like he doesn't like it. Like there's a moment where he's like, I don't like killing, but I got to do what I got to do. And
where he's like, she talks about like I have to like protect the things that I believe in and that my family believes in or whatever.
And in so many words, Faramir is essentially like Gondor is like a xenophobic nation now. Like we are not what we used to be. And it's like all crazy. The countries,
like even Rohan was where it's like,
he says like we never really got along with the people from the south, but it wasn't like this. Like we weren't like hunting each other and killing each other. But anyway, this is where as part of this battle, Sam finally gets to see the Oliphant, and it is like 18 times larger than an elephant. At least that's the way it's described.
And it just like charges through, and it has like red eyes and a big house on it.
And the Oliphant leaves, and Faramir's like, all right, you guys got to come with us. We got to go. We got to talk more about this. Oh, sorry. We should probably talk more about what they actually talk about here in the Glade. So Faramir's like, why can't you just tell me why you're here? Which is like a totally fair, like if you just see these two guys coming from the evil place, well, like, just be honest with me.
And he keeps giving details like, I knew your brother, and we came from Rivendell, and you know Gandalf. It's like, why do you...
This is also where we learn some badass names of Gandalf.
Don't get me started on this. He calls him
like this?
Gandalf is Mithrandir.
That's
I
badass.
draw the line. No.
No, that's awesome. Mithrandir.
I don't think so.
His regular name, like that, as he was first known as Olorin, which is what he was called when he first arrived on the Middle Earth. Why don't you think Mithrandir is cool?
Myth. Hey, Myth, come over here.
They weren't calling him that. They're calling him Deer. But yeah, Faramir's like, if you're not gonna, I'll just be honest with you. Gandalf showed up and he was like, I need to know a lot about a guy you know very little about. He's like, okay. And so he learned all he could about Isildur and then left in like the most hurried, stressful state of all time. And Faramir is just like, I know it. I don't know where my brother is, which is a lie. I don't know what Isildur's Bane is, and I know that there's like a poem that relates you two small little guys to everything. So
and you just told me you came with 7 people. Doesn't he like figure it out? He's like, Isildur's Bane must have been some sort of weapon, and that must mean, and if you're all leaving and something happened, that means you must be carrying this weapon. He like figures it out.
Yeah, he does.
And then Frodo's like, and then he says like, just so you know, if you have it, I don't want it. I promise.
Yeah,
and then Frodo's like, fine, I have the One Ring.
No. Sam reveals accidentally that he has the One Ring. But
and Frodo's like, what the hell, man?
Yeah. There's a moment here where he's trying not to... Like, Frodo does not know Boromir is dead. But
that's right, and I didn't know that. And I was saying, like, oh, shit.
He's sort of operating under the assumption that they're all dead. Because here's an important thing. In the book, Frodo sneaks away from the group. In the movie, Aragorn lets him leave, and Merry and Pippin see him leave and let him leave and help him leave. Like, that is not how it happens in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So Frodo and Sam just seriously think, like, well, they're either all alive and then through this conversation they find out Boromir's dead, and then they're like, they're all fucking dead. Like, it's just like, the two of us.
If Boromir died, they're all dead.
Yeah. And Faramir's like, who do you think put him in the boat and sent him down? Like, why would strangers do that? They're not dead. And Frodo and Sam are like, no, they're dead. They must be dead.
I thought that was really cool because Faramir then talks about how he, like, heard the horn back, like, at home or wherever.
11 days.
And then, like, one night he just, like, sees a boat going by itself down the river, and he like sees his brother and like it's dead, and it's pretty sad.
I get pretty emotional about this because of the whole like the poem. This is why I think it's this moment that I think makes this Boromir's death song so important, because it's literally in one of the verses that's happening, is that like it's the boat is going to deliver. It's like Aragorn's plan. He's like, we're going to put him in the boat and send him down the waterfall, and he's still going to get there because like he is a child of this place and will always end up there. And the fact that it happens and that awesome. Faramir sees it is just like, oh my god. And he has this moment where he like Faramir stares far off and he says something to the effect of like, I have no, he's like, why do I have to figure this all out now? And it's it's like, damn, dude, man.
Yeah, like Tolkien could write this like fantastic, like this is like a perfect example of like fantastical thing driving like a beautiful character moment.
Yeah,
you know, like this did not have to be in the books, but like it is, and it just makes it better.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then Faramir talks about how his family is all salty that they're just stewards of Gondor and not actual kings. And they're like, how long do we have to be stewards? Go just be kings.
I think is such a cool, like, it's such an interesting, like, lore. I, like, love that. I don't know. I just think that's so cool.
So much of this Gondor stuff is, like, this is all new to me. Like, it's sort of like, nice. I sort of knew, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Why then? Because I never really understood, like, when Aragorn comes back, like, why that's a big deal, right. Or, like, why didn't he do this earlier, or why would these people just be like, okay, yeah, you're king now, so, like, it makes sense, like, oh, earlier when, what was it, like, when Isildur died, like,
it was
the stewards took over?
When, it's King, Illyrian... Faramir says it. King Illyrian didn't have any children. And so, like, Isildur's line did, but they were Dunedain, like, rangers of this area. So they would, like, patrol. They're like witchers. Like, they would just, like, patrol and kill monsters and stuff. And they're like, I don't want to be fucking king. But when it's time to boss up, Aragorn's like, fuck it. I'll be the fucking king of the coolest guys ever. Also, just... listener, if you don't know what Numenor is, and Danylo, if you don't, it's Atlantis. It's fantasy Atlantis. That's what it is.
I watched the first 2 episodes of the new Lord of the Rings show, and that's all I got from it.
Well, there you go.
There's an island, and it's on the way to where all the elves go.
And I wonder who that big old guy who met those hobbits is. I wonder who that could be.
Wait, what? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it was like as a side note.
Who did it end up being? Was it Gandalf or was it Sauron?
Yes.
Okay, it was Gandalf. Okay. Because people were like, "Oh, it's Sauron." It's I never finished the show, so.
Do you want me to tell you who Sauron is?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna watch it? It's that handsome stud that Galadriel finds in the ocean.
Oh,
Hildebrand or whatever. Because he's like, I want to stay here and learn a lot about jewelry. And it's like, what? Why?
I think I listened to a podcast where someone like called it like, oh, it's a suspicious guy with no story, just comes out of the ocean.
It throws you off if you're a nerd because in the book he's an elf, like a beautiful elf. And there are very many beautiful elves in that show. And so it's like, I don't know. Anyway, so Faramir's like, I got to take you to this I got to take you to my sweet Minecraft base. And so they're like, okay. And Danylo, maybe you can help me with this. I really struggled to understand the description of how this like place looked. So it's like it's waterfall, but it's right. But is it in front of a waterfall or behind a waterfall?
I think it's both, because I think there's 2 entrances. There's like the one you walk in,
yeah,
and then the other one is like behind the waterfall, because they keep talking about how like, hey, don't try to escape by jumping out the waterfall because there's sharp rocks at the bottom.
Oh right, true. I don't know why it was so hard. I had to read it like 8 times. I don't understand. Maybe it's because I'm so focused on like how cool and badass this waterfall is, but I have such a hard time picturing a lot of this stuff
because it's like
in
a rainbow waterfall.
Yeah, it's awesome. The chapter's literally named after the waterfall. Like how badass it looks.
And it's called Henneth Anun, right?
Yeah, it is. Not very good.
Thank you. Nice. I wrote that down in my notes.
So they get back to the base camp, and Faramir's like, all right, you guys can eat food and hang out, and I still got some questions for you, though. Sam lets it slip that he's got the ring, and Frodo, like we said, he's like, what the fuck is your problem? And it all clicks for Faramir, and this is where Faramir says his famously memed line, now is the chance for Faramir, son of Gondor, to show his, to show his courage. But there's a really lovely moment with Sam that ties that line together, because Faramir, like, knowing the power of the ring, and he, like, it's, like, sort of there. Like, he's like, oh, maybe we really could do a lot of good with that. And it almost looks like he's, like, gonna send everybody to,
there's
like...
a couple of fake outs where, like, oh, if he just wanted to take the ring, he could have it right now.
Yeah. And so he doesn't, obviously. And Sam has a moment where he goes, he's like, you did it. And Faramir's like, what? And he's like, well, you proved your courage. Like, you didn't take it. I'm like, thank you. And he's like, oh, well, I guess you're right.
Doesn't he also say something like, hey, if, like, Boromir couldn't resist it, like, who do I think I am that I'd be able to? So I'm not going to touch that thing. Yeah.
Now he was sort of being still cagey about, like, what happened with Boromir, but now he's got it. Like, Frodo had to run away because Boromir betrayed him, which is what happened, but it wasn't Boromir's fault.
This whole section, like, highlights something, like, in this part of the book specifically, about, like, how the power of the ring just, like, works so much better and in, like, book form.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, this vague, like, almost, like, social pull corruption.
Yeah.
It's, like, atmospheric, which, like, there's not really a way to show that visually, like, in a movie. Like, sometimes you can, like, when its physical effects become real, or, like, in, like, a poetic way. But, like, the gradations of, like, what's possible for, like, this ring to do, it feels more menacing in the book, because, like, it could really be anything. Like, is the ring going to be strong enough to make Faramir go crazy and kill these two guys? Like, it might,
right?
You know.
And you also don't know, like, Frodo is vague. Frodo threatens Gollum with, like, Frodo's like, I'll just put on the ring and make you jump off a fucking cliff, idiot. And you don't, it's sort of, like, vague, because as far as they know, that isn't how it works, but it could very well be that is exactly how it works. Like, if somebody's under the spell of it like that, the wearer could still control them, but they think that, like, only Sauron would be able to control it. So we don't really know, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And in the same way, like, the vagueness of, like, the evil of Mordor and Sauron in the ring.
Yeah.
Where it's, like, it feels, like, I don't know, more vague, but also more specific and, like, less boring, maybe, than it would in the movies, because it is this sort of, like, mental, psychological thing.
It's like you have when you wear it, you have evil charisma, like opposite charisma. Like, people are drawn to you, but for, like, bad reasons, and the only reason Sauron, like, he's powerful enough to control it all, but, like, normally, like, Faramir would just stab Frodo. Like, Faramir couldn't just stab Sauron. Like,
right. Or it's like having a headache, which, like, if you're, you know, like, when it's happening to you, like, know it's happening, and it's, like, affecting everything around you. But, like, if someone took a picture of you, they'd have no way of knowing you have a headache. But when you have a really bad one, you're like, oh.
That's a good point. We forgot. After this, Faramir's like, oh, by the way, I know that little creep is outside, and I'm gonna fucking kill him. And then, like, Gollum has been following them the whole time, and he's found their super secret dude hiding base.
Well, this is the chapter opens. This is, like, a new chapter. They, like, fall asleep. It wakes up. Frodo opens his eyes, and Faramir's, like, menacingly staring over him. And Frodo's like, Jesus Christ, you're going to take the ring from me.
And he's like, no.
Faramir's like, no, I'm just making sure you're awake. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah, Gollum is eating fish in the pool, and, like, one of the rangers is like, I could kill him. I could just shoot him from here. And Faramir's like, all right, I'll give you one chance. If you go down there... Well, Faramir says, if you go down there and fail, I'm going to kill you both. Like, if you don't...
This whole part is, like, I found it, like, weirdly, like, powerful, because it's the whole...
Oh, yeah.
This whole section is, like, you know, the humanity of Gollum / Smeagol, and like,
yes, is
salvation possible? Is it not? Like, because when they first run into him, Frodo's like gonna kill him because, like, yeah, this is a fucking evil creep. But then he remembers like Gandalf's
the pity
words.
stayed his hand.
Yep, and he's like, I don't know the future. I don't know if he deserves to die. So like, I'm not gonna kill him. And Sam's like, you're a doofus. He's gonna choke you. And so this whole part is like them figuring out, like, it's just asking the questions of like, when is a person beyond saving, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and then Frodo in this section, Frodo like takes responsibility for Gollum to be like, hey, I don't want them to kill you because I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to help you, you know? I just thought it was great because, like, in the movie, boring and I did not like it. But like in the book, like, oh, this is how, like, oh, this is what the story's about. It's not it's not about Oliphant people having a battle. It's about like, do you see the humanity in this like wayward creature?
There's a moment, I guess we can talk about it now, right before the climax of the chapter, right before they wake up and have to go into Shelob's lair. Gollum is like sitting over them both, and the narratorial, and he's like has his like hand just like sort of on Frodo's hand, and the narratorial voice describes it as like a far off viewer would just see like another hobbit comforting two other hobbits, and it's like, oh my god, it's so sad because that's what he was. He was a fucking
and it's like the book plays off of like that, whereas like in the movie, it's like, oh, this guy is just a piece of shit. You know, it's like, why would I care about watching this guy be a piece of shit to two characters I like?
You don't know who's going to win. Is it going to be Slinker or Stinker in the words of Samwise Gamgee?
Yeah, Sam has these goofy nicknames for...
He does.
Is it Smeagol is Slinker and
yes.
Gollum is Stinker? Like,
but Slinker is still not good. Like, I don't understand. Right? I don't get it, but whatever.
Sam needs to entertain himself somehow.
There's a really good... I think it's funny, if like, reading it, you're like, God, Sam is just useless. Like, I think a lot of that is on purpose, is for you, the reader, to be like, he's just trying to, like, make jokes, and the first time he does try to fight something, like, Gollum starts whooping his ass, and then Frodo has to step in and save him. So when the end of this chapter happens, you're like, oh my, Samwise Gamgee is the greatest of all time. He's the greatest to ever do it.
I also love Faramir, like, keeps calling Gollum their gangrel companion. And I think we need to, bring that back and start calling
That's what I call
more
my
people
cat.
my gangrel companion. Come, my gangrel companion.
Frodo is like, you just gotta come with me, Gollum, up this hill, and it's gonna be fine. And then, like, all the Rangers jump out, and they're like, gotcha! And then they grab Gollum, and Frodo feels really bad, but part of the deal was that he couldn't just go down there and be like, hey, they're gonna kill you if you don't come with me. He had to prove... Frodo had to prove to Faramir that Gollum was actually willing to, like, follow Frodo of his own accord,
right.
Which he does, and then immediately gets captured. But then he gets released, and he's like, tensions are high again. But they're gonna leave, and they're gonna keep going to Cirith Ungol, and maybe everything will be fine. And Faramir says, "Don't fucking drink the water. Do not drink the water that flows out. You can drink the water that flows in, but don't drink the water that flows out." And they say, whatever. And then they walk outside and see the biggest, scariest city of all time.
Yeah, this was chilling.
Do you want to talk about Minas Morgul?
I would love to talk about Minas Morgul. So all the lore around this is new to me. I did not know, like, in movie brain, it's like, oh, this is just the evil place.
Yeah.
But there's the whole background of, like, this was a city of Gondor, and it was, like, the twin city of Minas Tirith, right? It used to be called Minas Ithil.
Yep.
And Minas Tirith was, like, Tower of the Sun, right? And Minas Ithil
I think so,
was
or it might be reversed.
Tower of the Moon or something.
I think it might be reversed, but I don't remember.
But anyway, now it's not Minas Ithil anymore. It's now Minas Morgul. And
it's like if that guy took over New York City and named it Evil New York City.
New York evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Evil York City.
No! New Evil City.
New Evil City. But the subways are better, so I don't know. It's a bit of a trade-off. I wanted to read, because they like...
Oh, please,
This is, again, in the don't stare too long at evil stuff theme, is they just, like, stare at the city, and, like, they all, like, lose all hope to live immediately. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Oh, yeah, this is for all the Tolkien prose haters, you know, who think you can't write specific evocative fantasy and still not have good prose. All right, I'm going to read about Minas Morgul. A long tilted valley, a deep gulf of shadow, ran back far into the mountains. Upon the further side, some way within the valley's arms, high on a rocky seat upon the black knees of the Ephel-Duath, stood the walls and tower of Minas Morgul. All was dark about it, earth and sky, but it was lit with light. Not the imprisoned moonlight welling through the marble walls of Minas Ithil long ago, tower of the moon, fair and radiant in the hollow of the hills. Paler indeed than the moon ailing in some slow eclipse was the light of it now, wavering and blowing like a noisome exhalation of decay, a corpse light, a light that illuminated nothing. It's so good.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
I love that. A light that illuminated nothing.
Do you know, so they, Minas Morgul falls, or Minas Ithil falls because of the Nazgul. They're like, this is going to be our cool hangout zone now. Just a cool lore thing I want to point out about the Nazgul is that, like, they do not have, like, names. Mm-hmm. Like, they are just the 9, like, in nothing are they actually, like, named. The Silmarillion isn't, there's not like a chapter about, like, one of them. It's like, no, it is all that is known about them is what happened after, which I think is a really cool, like, if you are a good guy and then you become a terrible monster, nobody's going to remember the good stuff that you did. So it's like, maybe it's just like I don't know, it's just something, it's a big obvious thing that I think is a message of being like, just try to be a nice guy, because don't try to make new evil city, because it'll end poorly. But I will tell you this, Minas Morgul being able to fire awesome evil magic into the sky is sweet. That is badass.
Because aren't they like sitting, and they're like evil screams. They're like, it's just like, it like does like a you know, like one of those bombs from Star Wars, like those like thermal bombs, like
those sonic
it's like
bombs
that,
or whatever.
But it's an evil scream across the whole land, and everything gets so scared it can't move for 20 minutes.
It's so cool, and the doors open, and like the Nazgul are out. They're like, we'll do it ourselves if you're not gonna find the ring.
And then a whole evil army walks out, right? They're like in like jet black armor, and they march
led
out
by the Witch King of Angmar.
So he's called the king of the king of Minas Morgul, or the king of the Nazgul? Like, is he one of the Nazgul?
Yeah, he's the one that. Well, maybe we won't talk about it. I won't spoil it. But yeah, he's the one who stabbed Frodo.
Right. Yes, I remember. He because then Frodo sees him, and his like wound like twitches or gets more cold again. Yeah,
which is a good reminder. They talk like he's gonna. I feel like him getting stabbed by the Morgul blade should be coming up more often the closer he is. But it doesn't. But I think it's sort of cool that it's just like, it's like if I punched you and every time you saw me, you're like, ah! Ow! The Witch King is so unbelievably evil. He's awesome, man. He's so scary.
I want to bring up like the evilness of Mordor again, because it felt. This may be weird to say. I feel like we've circled around where like just having it be so evil is like almost refreshing, because you know, like we've sort of grown up in like the it's more complicated, it's not black and white, and like sort of this good versus evil fight has been like sort of done a bunch of times and then like cartoonized, where like I know I've read or seen things where like it's supposed to be a pure absolute evil, but it's like kind of cartoony or kind of like D&D where it's like, they're evil, but if you punch them enough times, their hit points will go down to 0,
Right.
Like, it's that. Whereas, like, the pure oppressive evil of Mordor is like, that just like really hit me, I don't know, in a different way, like more than the movies, more than like other media, where it's like, it's just evil, man. It's like just really evil.
All because of the guy who lives there. There's a moment even in here where it almost feels like Tolkien is trying to humanize orcs. It happens right at the very end where the two orcs are walking down the hallway and they're like, so what are you going to do when all this is over? And it's like, what? So I think if we take, for instance, and I think, people have talked about this before, and I think there's certainly a lot of merit to it of like saying, like all orcs are evil is like can make one uncomfortable, or can lead one down to like, oh, so there are you can use that escapist fantasy to justify a lot of things. You could say like all whatever of a group of people are evil, and it gets reinforced in media when all the orcs and stuff are presented as only evil. This is something that is sort of not like D&D. All orcs are no longer evil. You can play as an orc now. D&D still has a lot of other problems, but you can play as an orc now.
Baby steps.
I think it's interesting that like if we forget about the implications of like the race of orcs and how that could be transcribed into other media or into our real world, and just think of like the message of like there's the evil guys and there's the good guys, and trapped between are men, not like human beings, who are being manipulated by both sides, because the Gondor, like Denethor, is not a good guy at all, and we'll see he's crazy, and he treats Faramir like shit, and he treats like he's sending just his soldiers against the Mordor and they just keep dying, and Aragorn and like Gandalf and company, those are like the absolute good versus the absolute evil. And the same thing, Sauron has tricked the wild men and the Haradrim into thinking that like they're going to be like kings and have all this wealth, and like we don't know what the situation is like. Maybe they're terribly poor and they need the money, and Sauron is like, these men didn't offer them any money, and Sauron's like, oh, I'll give you money if you just do this thing.
It's like the evilness of Sauron is never like brought into question. Like, he just is evil, and like it's like his dark. Yeah, you can't help it. It's is he born with it, or is it just evil? But like, yeah, it's like his influence is like gradated based on like the choices people make, because like even the orcs are like, I'm just trying to do what my boss tells me to do, and like I don't really want to fight these horse guys. And then like the scarier people like, if you don't fight these horse guys, we're gonna fucking kill you. And it's like, okay, I don't know. And I don't know, it's just, it's definitely, it's like, it's weirdly, it feels more black and white than I think a lot of things, but also I think it is more gray area than maybe people give it credit for. Oh, because then you think about like the Nazgul and like the kings, like they, like the rings as a way of like, oh, they chose that, they like chose the influence. So yeah, I don't know. It's like a good metaphor to explore these ideas that he's trying to do of like, hey, salvation versus when it's too late, with like Smeagol and Gollum and like the corrupting influence of things. And yeah,
isn't that weird how the world building can be an important part of characters and it's not just a bunch of bullshit?
And the theme. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. It's funny. This book, this is only fair, because I wonder if somebody would call us out on this. This book also has long parts where people just explain lore, but guess what? It is all like, everything Faramir says about Gondor, the lore we learn, informs who Faramir is as a person. He's not just sharing it because it's like, it's not as if Faramir is like, oh, and let me tell you about this guy from Rohan who you've never heard about. It's like, no, he just talks specifically about his deal and how it informs like who he is as a person. He was living in his younger brother's shadow. He's like trying to do a good for a nation that is clearly falling and is like doomed to die in what he thinks is like 3 weeks, not even like like 10 years from now. And so he's just like trying his best. And the same thing, every time people are explaining lore, like that is why they're doing it. It's not just because it's cool. And the added bonus is it is cool. Like it is interesting to learn about.
Well, and Tolkien was smart enough to put he like keeps like, it's all like relevant more or less. And he's smart enough, he put all the irrelevant bullshit in the Silmarillion.
Yes, exactly.
Which we're going to read later. He put it in a different book, not at the beginning of every chapter.
There is some stuff about Samwise Gamgee does say, "Oh, the Silmarils." He says something about it later about the phial of light that Galadriel gave him.
Well, that's when they're all talking about like their own place in like the story of this they'll be told. Which, you know what, I was not expecting that whole thing. I'm like, this is in this book? What the hell? I'm just like every chapter I'm like, this is so much more like subtle and thought out and well written than anyone I've ever heard give it credit for. Like,
yeah,
it's
I know.
awesome.
Isn't it like frustrating when people are like, "Oh, Lord of the Rings, that's like baby's first fantasy," and it's like, are you 5 years old? Like, no, it isn't. There's crazy
really
shit
not.
going on in there. So yeah, I mean, they go to the hidden path in the mountains. This is when they have that conversation where Frodo's like, "Fuck, man, this is crazy." Like, there's moments I love. They're so real, where they just like sit down and pretty much bury their heads in their hands, and it's like, this is fucked up. We're not even like, come back. Like, there's no way we're coming back. Like,
we barely made it here. Well, and then every day they're like, well, we'll probably be dead tomorrow.
Yeah, and they're like, we're running out of food. We do not have enough food to go back, because they don't know. Like, they obviously. We know, I mean, I guess we wouldn't know if we had just read it, but if these books and movies weren't out yet, but like, there's gonna be a big, huge battle with everybody's friends, pretty much right next door to where they're dropping off the ring, so friends will be close, but they fucking think they think Aragorn is dead.
They think Gandalf is dead. They think like
they don't
everyone,
know he came back.
It's just them.
He says, I'm trying to find that bit about the story. Oh, there's also a moment, there's a moment where, Frodo laughs, like, actually laughs, and it's like, it was the first time ever that sound was ever heard in that land, like, like an actual honest laugh, and it's just like, man, that's so beautiful.
It's so good. Well, yeah, and this was after they were talking about, like, you know, we like these stories, but, like, do you think the people in these stories, like, know they're in a story, and, like, they never know where they're headed, you know, and just because, like, they might, and they shouldn't, you know, and if they die, like, we think that's a good story, but, like, they're not happy about it.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't want the end of the story to be that we die, but if we do, maybe it'll be a good story.
He says, the
meta stuff was just, I'm like, I can't believe they're talking about, like, myths and stories in this book.
It's good. And then there's a moment where he says, so was I, said Frodo, and so I am. We're going on a bit too fast. You and I, Sam, are still stuck in the worst places of the story. And it is all too likely that some will say at this point, shut the book down, Dad. We don't want to read anymore. That's like, oh, man. That's so cool, man. And I would not
have in a million years expected that would be in this book.
It's awesome.
Because then he's, like, saying stuff about stories and myth and people in stories, and that's what all these are about. Like, the end in the songs, and, like it all, like, it's just good. I don't know.
It is good. It is good.
It's just good. You. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's not like that. Remember, we're back when we were reading Mistborn, and, like, in the last one, there was that one guy who's like, I like stories more than I like the real world because the real world's not so nice sometimes.
Yep.
Wow.
It's like a 6-year-old's like analysis of why we like stories. It's not as if like, no, you are in a story and like somebody might tell it one day and like it might suck now, but you are, whether you know it or not, writing your legacy. So just try to do the best that you can in any given situation. It's like such a man.
And you're like, we don't know how it's going to end, and we don't want the people who we're telling a story about to know where it's going to go.
they're cooked. These last few, the stairs to Cirith Ungol, Shelob's Lair, and the choices of Master Samwise are 3 of the best, like, back-to-back chapters of, I think, any book I've ever read.
Well, and this is what I was saying, where, like, I wasn't expecting to be like, I was expecting it to be like the movie, where, like, okay, it's going to be 200 pages, and they're all going to kind of be crabby at each other, and then the book's going to end. But
no, man, they're not crabby. They love each other. No. They love each other so much. It's so wonderful. But they wake up, and they're like, well, we got it. Gollum's like, oh, I forgot to tell you. You got to go through this really long, dark, scary cave to get to where you want to go.
It's pitch black and really stinky.
Yeah, it's really smelly. And they go in there, and Sam is like, what's this big, squishy wall? He's like, what is this? And then they have the light, the phial of light that
they lose Gollum, gave them. And they're like,
oh right,
shit. We're behind. But little do we know, we did not lose Gollum. As Gollum lost to them.
Yes. He has the phial of light. They can finally use it to see in dark places, which is literally what she told them it's used for.
Well, and then every time they hold it aloft, like, they compulsively start speaking Elvish, which is always freaking. They're like,
yeah, and it, like, makes it, like, light up even more, which is very cool. But they find they're like, what are these webs? And then they pretty much turn around and see the biggest, scariest spider of all time.
And yes, now here we meet the 4th woman in these books, Shelob.
Yeah. 4th and final, I might add. This is she's a big, scary spider.
Does this pass the Bechdel test, where Galadriel has a conversation about not a man with Shelob? Does that happen later?
No, but I was gonna think, if you think, is Gollum a man? Because Gollum and Shelob talk to each other.
I mean, Gollum's a hobbit. That's not the same as a woman.
Well, but we don't know. I guess we do know that Gollum is. He probably unfortunately has a penis.
And I wish we saw it. Man, come on, Peter Jackson.
Oh, just give them people what they want. Did you know, I just have a fun thing to share with you. There's a Lord of the Rings video game. There's 2, and they're both very good. One's called Shadow of War, and one called Shadow of Mordor. And in Shadow of War, Shelob's in it, but they were like, we can't just have it be a big spider, so they magically give her the ability to look like the sexiest woman ever. Like, she just, like, is, like, wearing flowing, revealing clothes, and it's like, okay, sure.
And how is that different from Dark Souls?
That's true, but she's an illusion. Actually, they both are illusions. Oh, my lord!
No, I'm talking about. Oh wait, is topless spider lady? She's not an illusion.
Oh no! I thought you meant the woman at the top of Anor Londo, where if you shoot her, she disappears. No. You're right. That is sort of what's going on.
Well, and then the Nazgul are kind of like the 4 kings, but anyway, we could.
No.
We can't go down this road.
So Frodo, it's sort of vague what happens at first, and then we learn later what happens. So they're using the light to see, and they're trying to run.
Mm-hmm. They like Gollum see. They like see that there's like a orc watchtower nearby, right?
Before they enter the tunnel, they see a big orc watchtower, and they're like, "Gollum, you said it was going to be easy to go through here." And to Gollum's credit, he says, "No, I did not. All I said was it wasn't going to be as hard as the Black Gate.
This is the fewest amount of people at an entrance."
Yes. And he never really lied, because even the orcs have to use Shelob's tunnel to get back and forth. So,
and they don't like it.
No, they hate it.
Imagine you signed up for a job at like a grocery store, and you had to go back. Like, hey, could you go like restock the bread?
Shit.
You had to like walk through a stinky pitch black tunnel with a giant spider that might kill you. And then you have to walk back.
And sometimes they're like, God, where's Mark? He's supposed to be cashiering today. And he's like, oh, Mark's been hanging upside down a spider's web in the bread aisle for 6 months.
It was she needed something to eat, and we had to give her someone, so we gave her Mark.
Frodo tries to book it, and Sam loses Frodo. What happened is that Shelob, like, in the dark, like, she got him. She, like, stabbed Frodo and made him poisoned, and he fell over.
No, I don't know if it was in the dark.
Oh, does that happen? Did I miss that?
I think it like they like sort of get out of the tunnel, and then they like see it, and that's when Frodo starts running, and then Shelob like jumps and catches him. So I think it happens out in the open.
Oh, okay. So Shelob gets him.
Not that it matters that much, but that's how I imagined it anyway.
Well, no, because it is important because it fuels.
Yeah, because he sees it happening. Sam sees Shelob attack Frodo.
Right, and Frodo's like lying still on the ground, and Sam he walks over and he's like, "Oh shit!" and he grabs the sword and he grabs the vial from Frodo, and almost kills like one of the most powerful beings in Middle Earth.
And it's described as like he's like, there's, when you have a small creature that's trapped in a corner with nothing else to lose, and you've taken the thing from it that you valued most, like the crazy shit can happen.
Yeah. So Shelob like starts to like wrap up Frodo in her web, and he runs over and like chops off her hand, and he shoves his sword upward, which
when I read it, I imagined like he chops off a hand and stabs an eye, and then she starts like blah, and he like gets under her and like tries to stab, but then the narration says like, oh, this has been like, century upon century of like hard growth that no man or orc could break through. But then Shelob decides to like slam down on Sam.
Yeah.
And that's the force that like puts the sword through her.
I sent you an image on Discord of this that is like one of my favorite art things of the Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Sam using Sting to stab Shelob, who after she slams down on it, she starts bleeding crazy heavily and like fucks off. She goes back to a dark, scary area of the cave, a scaria, if you will, of the cave, and Sam doesn't know if she's dead, and the narrator does not let us know if she ever like comes back. He's like, that's not part of the story, which is a scary thing to say. and Sam, oh man, dude,
Sam thinks Frodo's dead.
Yes,
this was very hard to read.
Yeah, I cried at this part, and I will freely admit that I teared up, tears welled in my eyes,
because like, here's the thing: in the movies, this happens at the beginning of the third movie.
Yes,
and so that like they're not dead. Frodo's not dead. This is the beginning of a 3-hour movie. But you're reading the book, and even I like just like it gets you where it's like, oh shit,
it's the end of the book.
Frodo's dead, and Sam like he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I have to carry the ring. Okay. And he like he puts it on. He starts walking. And I was like, I just still my mouth open. I'm like, Sam's gonna carry the ring to Mordor. Like that could have been the book, and it's like it gets you because it's the end of the book. Like there's like 4 pages left, and you're like, that's the next book. I guess Frodo's dead. Jesus.
Sam, well, there's a moment where Sam is like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And he like looks at the cliff, and he's like, I could just do that. Like, I could just jump off the cliff. And he's like, no, that wouldn't do for both of us to be dead. But Sam says something very important. Sam's plan is he's going to go drop off the ring and then come back and then kill himself to be next to Frodo. That is Sam's plan. I missed
that.
He says, I will go there and I'll come back and we will be together again. That's what he says. And it sounds like he's not going to carry his body all the way back. Like, that is what's going to happen. But Sam... And it's like such a beautiful moment, and Sam makes his choice, and when he puts on the ring, he can it feels like a stone just dragged him to the earth. But then he just like he bosses up, he stands up, and he turns his ass around, and he starts walking to Mordor. And then he puts on the ring when he hears orcs arriving. Yeah. He puts the ring on, and he disappears. And it's
described exactly like the movie. It's like misty and gray, and I'm like,
I know, it's
fucking
so
nailed it.
Yeah, they really did nail it.
I just can't imagine reading this without, like, I just want to read this and not having seen the movies. Like, I just can't imagine what that experience would be like. That seems awesome.
I like the idea of picturing the landscape just based on the books. I really like, but I can't imagine a world in which I don't see these actors being these characters
Right,
because a lot of the art for the Hobbits, I'm like, why are they so ugly?
Like the picture you just sent me, like they look like he looks like a seaweed man.
Yeah, he does. He looks fucked up. Sam, the orcs come and they're like, oh, they literally are like, whoa, what the fuck is that? Who's that? They run over and they pick up Frodo's body and they're like, fuck yeah. And then they are walking in the cave to the gate to the watchtower. And Sam is like, oh, no, you don't.
Well, and they're slowly figuring out, like, oh, yeah, Shelob left a thing. And they're like, wait, why would she have left a thing?
Yeah.
Wait, is this, like, her blood? Oh, there's something around here, isn't there? Oh, fuck.
They think it's a big elf warrior with, and I quote, a big sword.
Yeah, or an axe.
Yeah, or an axe. And Sam starts following them in the dark as they're carrying Frodo to the gate of the watchtower, and the orcs are like, this guy's not dead, right? And they're like, fuck no, he's not dead. Sam's like, oh my god. It's like relief and also like incredible worry flood through Sam.
Yeah.
And he's like sprinting down this cave and he doesn't reach them in time because there's like a big stone like false door.
Yeah. And they ran into it before and then went the other way. But then he like shone the light around. It's like, oh, it doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. I'll just climb over it.
I'll just climb over
it.
And there's this funny little moment where Sam hears the orcs. He's still wearing the ring, and Sam hears the orcs right around the corner, and he says like some badass line, and he turns the corner, and they're really far down the hall because they're like voices carried down the thing, and he's like sprinting after them, and he gets to the door shuts right in his face as soon as he gets there. So Sam thinks, well, for a brief moment, Sam, for all intents and purposes, is the only one left alive of the Fellowship of the Ring. Which is crazy. Like, to imagine that burden and still making the decision to, like, I'm gonna 1v1 Sauron. Me, Samwise Gamgee, he's a gardener.
He's like, I gotta get my dirt back home.
He does. He's got to get that jar of dirt. You know, in the movie, I just watched the Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition. Galadriel gives him rope as the gift. Sam didn't just steal rope, which we didn't talk about, but Sam has, like, beautiful, impervious, easily untieable elven rope that he's like, they're putting in our boats and I fucking took some. And in the movie, that's his gift from Galadriel. It's not a jar of dirt, which I agree with the change because I don't think in the movie you'd be like, what? That's very funny. But yeah, this is the stakes are high.
That's where it ends.
That's where it ends. Pippin and Gandalf are riding to Minas Tirith, and Frodo has been taken by the enemy, and Sam is going to try to save him.
Get him back. Yeah. Damn. This is good
the Two
stuff.
Towers.
It's good stuff. And what is... Oh, wait. So then, like, Aragorn and company, what... Do we know what their plan is? Or is there just...
They're going to go to Minas Tirith, too. It was just that they were going to go first. Like, because he has the fastest horse ever.
Not everyone can sit on Shadowfax.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the Two Towers. We're a third of the way. We're 2/3 of the way done with the Lord of the Rings. Danylo, which book did you enjoy more so far, Fellowship of the Ring or the Two Towers?
You know, halfway through, I would have, before we read this last section, I would have said Fellowship of the Ring, but I think after this section, it's Two Towers.
Yeah,
by like a hair.
Yeah,
not by much.
No,
I really like Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. This is just a lore thing. I don't know if anybody cares, but the reason that the Rohirrim look like Vikings is because that's literally what they were. It just so happened that they went so far south, Gondor was like, how about horses become your new thing? And they're like, okay. Which is very cool. That's why they all are described as having like the long blonde hair and like the Nordic features, is because they are from the north, whatever that is, and now they've settled in the west. Southwest,
and that
I suppose.
has real life parallels because, like,
true,
because like Vikings like raided all the way through like Ukraine, and that's why like Ukrainians have blonde hair and blue eyes is because of all the Vikings.
Yeah.
So, Mac, as a whole, Two Towers, what would you rate?
Oh, man. -10 Mistborns.
-10? That's that's the highest rating we've had so far.
I think that's
I was just going to say -1 Mistborns.
Oh, I don't think there's any... I'm biased. This is like my favorite thing ever, but I don't... I can't draw... I guess one could make the argument that there's like a lot of descriptions of nature that maybe don't have to be there, but that's part of it. I like that, I don't mind that at all.
No, but there's literally no descriptions of nature environment in Mistborn except at the ash falls, and it really you never know where you are.
You know exactly where you are in this.
Like you know that the dead marshes feel very different from like Ithilien or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I also like whenever Tolkien describes a creek or a babbling brook, I'm always like, ooh, like I don't know why, but something about the way he describes the sound.
Well, and it's just like also the tiny parts of the landscape. Like they're like, oh, we had to go across this ravine, and like this is sort of what it looked like, and there was like higher here, and like this creek went there, and so we had to step over it this way. Like
yeah,
but it doesn't get in the way too much. Like it's not like okay, come on, here we go, but. It's good. It's just good.
Danylo, if I can call my shot, I think Return of the King is going to be your favorite.
Oh, really?
Because I'm very excited to read the end of Return of the King, which is all brand new stuff. Because it's not in the movie. Oh, shit. At all. It's great.
Like the end of the story or like all the appendices, which is like
the end of the story. None of it is in the movie. And there's like I saw a video essay that was like, it was like a photo of art of the scouring of the Shire, and it said, this is way worse, like, than Mordor. And we can talk about like the themes and why I think that is when we get to it. But, yeah, that's the Two Towers. The next time, we'll meet, I still have to figure out exactly where we're going to stop, because Return of the King, reader, if you have it on your bookshelf, it looks like the biggest one, but it's not, because a ton of the back is lore that you don't really have to read, but is fun, and we're going to read it and talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I had one other thing that I thought was funny that I wanted to share. It was not funny. I just there's a couple moments where they do mention the Silmarils, and there's a moment where they describe the two trees of the elf kingdom or whatever, that it's like, I really like it's like the thing, Danylo, that we've talked about. It's like, can you say champagne in a fantasy novel?
Yeah.
It's like Tolkien is describing things as being like things from this world. Mm-hmm. The Hobbit would describe things as things from our world, where it's like, it looks like like the goblin thing. It's like, they're known for all the things that give us trouble today. Like, obviously he's talking about like guns and stuff, right? But in this,
it's like, talking about like cars, windmills.
Yeah. This book is like, Sam's like, this reminds me of that elf story about the. Like, there's just something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just is really nice to.
Oliphant's like the kids' poem. It's like,
right, yes, exactly.
It's like you're like, Yankee Doodle. That's the guy. That's Yankee Doodle.
Right. That's exactly.
Guys, I met Yankee Doodle.
And he's like, nobody back home is gonna fucking believe I met Yankee Doodle.
He was the most handsome man I've ever seen. Like, did you? And like, let me tell you, he had a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. You're like, he did.
Yes, he did. I don't know, man. There's just something about there's never a moment in any of these books that feels like anachronistic or that it's pulling you out of the story. And and I think it really lays firmly in the camp of this. These books are a great argument for why maybe planning everything out is a good idea. I think Mistborn, it's a bad idea, and I think in this it proves that no, you can actually do it and it can be good, but you can't be too far up your own ass.
Yeah, it's the reason. Well, and like, he's not so far up his own ass to where he'll write like we have to like have this humanizing moment with Smeagol because that's something I'm trying to say, or like Sam seeing the guy get shot being like, I wonder if he had a family. Like, that's all there. They're not talking for 10 pages about, where the
bullshit.
Fourth Silmaril is or something.
Right, there's no part where they like talk about the ring and are like, well, how does it work? Well, I think it might work like this. It's like it doesn't, because it doesn't matter, because it's a metaphor.
Only it only matters in like what it says about, and that's, I don't know if I said this last time, but like the whole, like, it's Sauron's just evil. Like, there's nothing more interesting or subtle about this is just like an evil force that wants to take over the world because it's bad. And like, yeah, if we were in Sauron's head, it'd probably be really boring, you know, because he's just like, blah, I'm evil. But the whole point of him being evil is so that we can see all these characters like be good and brave and like do inspiring things. Like, that's the point of Sauron, is so that they can do that. It's not like, you know, I don't know. That's all I mean,
I
that
agree.
makes sense.
He's the perfect antagonist, because it like brings out the, because he's not in the book, like he's not there, but he's also
and
on every page.
It doesn't matter. It only matters so that everyone else can like be heroes, and you can read about it.
People talk about how stereotypical this is, but there's no like, it's not as if there's no Darth Vader,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, he's not
the closest
there.
You get is Saruman, but that's only interesting because he was good and corrupted by Sauron, and you sort of get to see the effects, and like Gandalf gave him a second chance and he didn't take it, and then like, hey, this is about like, you know, choices we have when confronted with like, do we do good things or bad things with our lives, you know?
Yeah, it's good. People don't give these books. I think these. When people think of these books, they think of the movies, and I think the movies are great. But there's a lot more and better stuff in the books than there are in the movies, and people just don't. People don't get past the birthday party stuff. Like, seriously, people don't get past that stuff when they start reading the books.
It's just so much less cliched and stereotypical than I think than how people talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking incredible.
Well, our mongrel companion... No, not mongrel companions.
No, what
gangrel.
Was it? Yeah, gangrel companions.
Well, all you gangrel companions. We'll talk to you next time on Hardcover Hooligans. Stay hard, everyone.
Stay hard, baby.